to our Wednesday afternoon meditation. Hope you've been having a wonderful Hanukkah so far. Again, you can join us tonight, 6:15 on tbh.org/Hanukkah. Brings you to our Zoom link, and you can join us at 6:15 for our lighting of the candles. But before we do that, we have our little half hour together. Our half hour in the evening to kind of center ourselves, find some stillness and peace, to bring some spirit into our lives. This is like a time that's just kind of set aside for us, whenever it is that you join, to just think about some things and to allow ourselves to be in the present, to allow things to be as they are for now, just to kind of find ourselves thinking about who we are a little bit, and noticing what's going on in our lives. And this week we've been learning about some of the moments. Actually, one of the moments we've been talking about distinctively is in Miketz. If you remember, the Pharaoh had some dreams. Joseph comes and reads the dreams. And then at the end of this section where he explains to the Pharaoh what needs to happen, he's like, you need to hire somebody who's full of wisdom and is able to accomplish saving over the 7 years of plenty, so that in the 7 years of famine there can be food in Egypt. And the Pharaoh asks, where can I find someone like this? And Joseph doesn't volunteer. He's asked to do it. And there is something that I've thought about for many years that has to do with the understanding of humility. Joseph knew that he was the right person for this position. But, he subtly says you need to hire someone that has discernment and wisdom. He doesn't say you should hire someone like me. He doesn't come forward and say, I should be this person that does this. He humbly waits for the Pharaoh to choose him, maybe knowing full well that he was the best person for it and that he should be chosen. And I've always found that to be true about humility, ability, and where we should sit on that spectrum. I know that, it's funny, I know a lot of people who play an instrument. They play violin. My brother, for example, plays violin, viola, and piano. My other brother plays cello and the gamba. I know not too many people know what the gamba is, but you can look it up. And one of them is a professional musician. He does it for a living, the one who plays cello and the gamba. The other one is a fine musician, but he doesn't do it for a living. He does it because he loves to do it. And it's funny, because whenever you hear anybody play any kind of musical instrument, if they play it well, the person's like, oh, you have to do something with that. Why don't you have 1 million people hear that? If someone does anything well, our instinct is to say, oh, you've got to push yourself out there and make sure everybody knows that you can do this, which is what Joseph could have done. He could have let the Pharaoh know and everybody know that he was incredible at reading dreams, but he didn't do that. He just did the reading. If you're in a position of power, do you need to act like you're in that position of power, or do you exist in that position? Do we have to push forward those things that come naturally to us, that we do well, that we might do because we just love to do it? Does that necessarily have to be public? Does that have to be pushed? And I've thought about this a lot. I have children, and there were some things they did very well and some things they might not have. And I encourage them to do whatever it is that they wanted to do and that they love doing it. Not thinking, oh, this is what you're going to do for a living, but this is something that'll enhance your life. And I guess the mindful aspect of this is it just okay to do something because you love to do it? Or does it have to always be towards some kind of monetary end? Is it okay to have a passion that is just your passion, and not have to kind of push that out into the public world so that you're admired for it? Is it enough to know that you do what you do well? Or does it have to be acknowledged by someone else? And I think this is, depending on the personality of the person, a lot of times the answer of that will be very different. And it could be that you decide for yourself, yes, if I do something, I want to try to do more of it, and I want to try to do it every day, and I want this to be the thing that I do for a living. But there are many of us that don't have that. We have our living, and then we have other things that we love to do. And when does that line occur where I'm going to take this beyond that to be something other than my own personal pride and love, to do whatever it is I love to do, or that you love to do? Sometimes people feel inadequate because they have a skill in a certain area, but they're not a professional. So they're like, well, I'm not a professional, so I can't expect that what I do in that realm will be on the same level as someone who is. Well, why not? We can do whatever we put our minds to. And I don't know, maybe over the pandemic, you found something that was a little different that you took up in these 9 months that you had to be at home. And that that just the act of doing it was sufficient. Last night, we watched a movie called Yes Man with Jim Carrey. And it's I found it to be a pretty interesting movie. It's a comedy, obviously, but it's about what if you said yes to everything? And so he does. He says yes to everything. So he ends up taking guitar lessons, and he takes flying lessons, and he takes, all kinds of extracurricular activities that he never would have done had he not said yes to everything. In the end, it's like you should say yes to as many experiences as you can, but there are some lines you can draw. But one of the fascinating things was that he was able to use kind of all of the skills that he had put his mind to because he said yes. And it wasn't necessarily because he wanted to be famous in those areas or any of that, but it ended up that he was helping others just because he had these skills and he had these things that he did. And maybe that's really the answer. And maybe that is what Joseph did in the beginning, is he used his skill for reading dreams towards a positive end, letting people know what he thought the truth of their dream was. And so maybe it's not so much that we need to push what we do, what we learn, what we're skilled at as a professional, but whatever we do can be used in the world to make the world a better place simply because we're bringing that art into it or that skill into it. And I'm not sure if we necessarily have to make that into something that is public. But it is an interesting thing to notice about ourselves, and whether we feel like everything we do has to be made commercial, or whether what we do belongs to us and still has impact, whether it's commercial or not. So let's get ourselves ready for our meditation this evening, and get yourself into a nice, comfortable position, but strong at the same time. And we're just going to begin, of course, with our breathing. Deep breaths, thin breaths, whatever breath that you have going. It's interesting, just to point out, one of the things I like to do when I'm doing this is I feel my breath, and when my breath gets to the end, a lot of times my heartbeat comes into that. So I kind of like take notice of my heartbeat, and then the breath begins again, brings in, breathes out, and when it gets to the end of that breath again, I can kind of sneak my heartbeat into that breath. And that's part of my it's not a mantra, but it's a concentration circle, I might call it, where it's the breath, and then it's the heartbeat, and then it's the breath, and then it's the heartbeat. And it's just, those two things kind of go back and forth. And one of the things I find that happens to me when I'm able to do that for a little bit of an extended period of time before my mind takes me away is Once I concentrate on my heartbeat as well as my breath, I find that my breath becomes very, very kind of fluid and easy and lighter. It's just something I've noticed about my own breathing when we've been doing this recently. So let's get ourselves ready. And tonight's the best. We're going to ask for feelings of, may I feel luminous and may I feel loved, which in the middle of the week, and especially for Hanukkah, it's the one that brightens up our evening. We're just breathing normal, not trying to push anything, not trying to fix anything. We're just existing as a being that needs to breathe. Our mind is such a whirlwind all the time. So if we can concentrate deep within us, take the time to be in this moment, just noticing moment to moment what's happening in our bodies, our breath, and then of course our mind, which will do everything it can to take us away from our concentration on our breath. So just in love and kindness, in chesed, just bring yourself back. We come to our final minutes together. I invite you to welcome certain feelings. Tonight, we ask that we feel luminous and loved, especially as the lights are growing in Hanukkah. There certainly will be a luminous presence. So we have 7 candles. My cat loved the 7th and 8th nights. She used to sit in front of them and stare at the candles. That's luminous, bright and light and shining. May we feel that way, as if we're shining. The light from deep within us is coming out to others in a show of kindness and love. And may I feel loved. I feel as if there are people who love me. Lately I've been offering the idea that you could say, may I feel love, just so that we can feel as if there is love in our hearts. You may choose whichever way you'd like to read that. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous. And with each breath, offer yourself one or both of those feelings. Continue that for several breaths. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. May I feel luminous and loved. If you'd like to invite someone to be in front of you in your mind's eye, and you can offer it to them. May you feel luminous. May you feel loved. May you feel loved and luminous. May you feel loved. May you feel luminous. And please spend a couple of breaths offering it to somebody. Let's just give ourselves one breath for each, for ourselves. May I feel luminous. May I feel loved. And then let's just go back into our breath. If you'd like to continue offering yourself the feelings, you may, but for our final moments together, let's be in the present. Leave our thoughts behind. It's funny, when this bell goes off, that is also the ultimate of now. This is what's happening right now. We're finishing up together. I want to thank you for being here this evening. I hope you were able to find some stillness and peace. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your... Actually, we'll be back tomorrow night before the last night of Hanukkah, but hope tonight goes well, lighting the candles. May you feel luminous. May you feel loved. Hope you have a beautiful evening.